In this video, I'll give you a comprehensive guide on how to heal leaky gut. Hi ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Zarowski and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it's a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification and join our notification community so I can help you excel your health and your life. In this video, we're talking about how to heal leaky gut. Now, leaky gut is also known as intestinal permeability, and this is a problem that millions of people are unknowingly suffering from. Now, when we look at leaky gut, essentially what it is where large particles of food are actually passing through the GI tract into the bloodstream and causing the immune system have all kinds of reactions. Now, when we look at this issue, we could look at the gut as a net. And what is allowed to pass through that net is very small particles of food. But when the net becomes worn out and unhealthy, as a result, large particles of food start to pass through, particularly protein particles, and it causes all kinds of issues. You know, not only is it protein particles, it can be pathogens, it can be all kinds of food particles, it can be bacteria, and then as a result, the immune system has a lot of issues and starts to go and just attack everything. And so that's when someone starts to become very unhealthy. And so what we're going to talk in this video is the different symptoms that will really help you determine if this is something that you're suffering from, some of the conditions that can come as a result of leaky gut, and then where it's coming from. You know, the root cause. How did this happen in the first place? And then lastly, the different plan that you need to follow in order to help reverse this problem. Now, when we look at leaky gut, I told you already, it's going to cause all kinds of reactions because these large particles of food are passing the bloodstream. The immune system is recognizing them and going, this shouldn't be here. So as a result, a lot of symptoms go ahead and start to pop up. Let's go ahead and start with food sensitivities. So if you're someone who has an ever-increasing list of food sensitivities, meaning that, you know, every time you find a new food that you really like and you start eating it, your body starts reacting poorly to it, then there's a good chance that you have leaky gut. You know, typically it's even healthy foods. You know, if it's blueberries, strawberries, if it's your favorite vegetable, you know, you can start reacting to any food. It doesn't have to be a bad food. And so, once again, if you have leaky gut, typically the foods that you like to eat the most are the ones you're going to become sensitive to. And it gets to a point where, because you're starting to develop so many sensitivities, it feels like you just can't eat anything. So if that's you, then leaky gut may be your problem. A lot of unpredictable reactions, and let's talk about these different reactions that start to pop up. Bloating and distension, so that you eat a meal, you get all kinds of bloating, you wake up in the morning, you have all kinds of gut pain just simply because you have tons of bloating and distension. You're someone who's a thin person, but you look like you have a big belly just because it's so bloated out. Then this could be a result of leaky gut. Pain, aches, and swelling. Now this is an unpredictable reaction that nobody likes. And what happens here is that you get someone who will, you know, consume a food, and then all of a sudden they'll start to get all kinds of itching on their skin. They'll start to get itchiness in their throat. They'll start to get pain in their joints. They'll start to get swelling in their fingers or in areas of the body that they just don't know why it's happening. Now, we have to make sure that if we're getting these different reactions post meals, then we have to look at a leaky gut issue. So let's keep that in mind. Reactions to sugar and starch, and then skin irritations. So once again, people who are having leaky gut will start to get all types of reactions. You know, I had one person who was, for instance, they put some collagen in their coffee, and next thing you know, their fingers were swelling up, and they couldn't even get their ring off because their fingers swelled up so much just from putting something healthy in their coffee. And then I've had people who have had rashes and eczema that just are persistent and won't go away no matter what they do. Steroid cream, using all the different potions and lotions out there, trying to get it to go away, and it turns out this is a gut issue. Many gut issues manifest in unhealthy skin. So we have to keep that in mind as well, and different skin reactions. And so these are all some of the different symptoms that can pop up. And the reason that this is so important is because this actually can lead to bigger problems, okay? Problems like arthritis, autoimmune conditions, psychological disorders. You know, when we look at arthritis, for instance, many of the different symptoms we talked about are essentially what arthritis is going to have as symptoms as well. Autoimmune condition and arthritis are tied together. And so anyway, when we look at, you know, a lot of conditions, like I said, they are rooted in a gut problem. Diabetes is rooted in a gut problem as well. And so psychological disorders might be one that you're like, well, how is that connected? Well, you know, there's a ton of neurology within the gut, and there's tons of data and science out today letting us know that when we look at these different psychological disorders that are out there, that they actually are in many cases rooted to some different gut conditions. And I have a video on that, so be sure to check that out. So then what we look to is, how did this happen in the first place? There's a couple things we have to consider here, because a lot of people, when they develop a condition, in many cases they're trying to do all the right things. They're trying to eat healthy. They're trying to make better decisions and exercise. But as a result of doing all the right things, then sometimes people can still have a problem that comes out of it. And so anyway, stress is a major one here. So if you have chronic stress, it's going to change the pH balance in the gut. It's also going to disrupt the microbial balance in the gut, and as a result, just a cascade of events happen that start to break down the gastrointestinal tract. So chronic stress is something that we have to work on managing if we're suffering from that. Now the next here is toxins. Okay, toxins come in many ways, whether it's pesticides, GMO crops, herbicides, toxins that are being used as cleaners to clean our different fruits and vegetables before we even get them to our house. This is something that they're using in the stores in order to clean these different fruits and vegetables. And so we have to make sure that we are doing our best to make sure that we're not getting toxins on the food that we're eating, because our gut is not designed to handle pesticides. Our gut is not designed to handle herbicides and GMO crops. This is all something that's very unnatural to the human body. And so we have to be careful with that. Next is medication. When we look at things as simple as Tylenol, for instance, it says right on the bottle, it may cause GI tract bleeding. It may cause stomach bleeding. How many people are going and taking painkillers and just taking them as if they're nothing, and so with no consideration as to the damage it's having on the body. So we have to look to medications as one of the ways that this is happening, and even antibiotics. When you take antibiotics, it clears the bad bacteria out, but it clears out the good bacteria, leaving your gut in a very compromised position. Next is pathogens. So bad bacteria that's starting to form in the gut, parasites, all kinds of different pathogens can result in leaky gut, and then organ malfunction as well. When we look at the detox organs, the colon, the kidney, the liver, the gallbladder, they all work together. And when we find that the organ malfunctions happening in the liver and the gallbladder, it's going to affect the gut health. And so we have to be aware of that too, and make sure that we're taking a multifaceted approach to heal the entire body. Everything works together. Many people will segment your health into gut health and brain health and everything. And I know it makes it easier to talk about it in that way, but when we look at true health, we have to consider how all the different organ systems work together in order to keep us healthy. Let's talk about what you do in order to get well here and reverse this issue of intestinal permeability. Now, the first thing here is the food plan, okay? Because it's very important to make sure that you're taking the bad foods out of your diet that are causing these reactions at the time, the foods that are breaking down the gut lining, even the foods that are healthy but are just hard to digest, and then you replace them with good foods that are good for you at this time. This is a very important aspect of this whole scenario here. We need to remove the bad stuff and put the good stuff in, because like with many other gut conditions, we have to make sure that our body is being nourished properly, because with leaky gut, there starts to become so many foods we can't have. So we have to make sure that we're taking out that stuff that's causing the disruption, but getting good nourishment to our body. And when we look at the food plan, this is something we could talk about for the next 20 minutes. It's very in-depth. So what I will do is put a link in the description below where you can actually download the food plan. It's very similar to an autoimmune food plan, but it's very important to make sure that you're following it. The next here is we use a powder called GI Repair. Now the GI Repair has different nutrients in it, like L-glutamine, it's got deglycerinized licorice root extract, it's got arabinogalactin, it's got aloe vera. Essentially what these are all designed to do is go in and soothe and heal the GI tract, reduce inflammation, put the proper healing nutrients in there to actually start removing some of these different very small holes in the intestinal lining. And so the GI Repair is very powerful, and it's not just about using aloe vera, it's not just about using L-glutamine, it's about using all these different ingredients to synergistically start to heal the gut lining, because together they are so much more powerful than by utilizing them alone. So GI Repair is very powerful. The next here that we use is bone broth. Okay, so bone broth is good too. I'll drink 8 ounces of bone broth in the morning and in the afternoon, especially when I'm working on leaky gut issues for either maybe even myself or working with somebody else. Now the other thing that you can do here with bone broth is you can use collagen, you can even use gelatin, but the problem is, as I mentioned before in that story about the person who put it in their coffee and they started swelling, is that this is a protein, and with leaky gut you may react poorly to it. So Bone broth is very immune safe, and there's a very low possibility that you're actually going to react to bone broth in a negative manner. So bone broth is a very safe way to go about this, and I'll put a link in the description below to how to make it. So if you don't know how to make it, it's very easy to make. I'll put a link below. Next here is probiotics. So probiotics are very important to take at this time. Not only are they going to support the immune system and balancing the immune system, but it's going to support healing the gut. And so we have to make sure that we're putting the proper probiotics in there. The probiotics that I use are specifically designed in order to not actually cause reactions, because many of the probiotics that have the prebiotics along with them, essentially what they're going to do is cause a lot of reactions. So we use a very specific one so that does not happen. So you got to use the probiotics, and then we use enzymes as well. Enzymes are important because the GI tract is compromised. As it is being compromised, it's going to have a harder time digesting food. And so what we do is we reseed the gut with proper enzymes, because there's a good chance they are at a low level. We reseed it with enzymes. And it also allows the gut to get that extra support during this time, and get that support of digesting and breaking down the foods. And so when we look at this whole scenario here as to how you go about reversing leaky gut, you know, a lot of people like to stick to different parts of it. A lot of people go and they'll just do the food plan but not the supplements. And I don't recommend that, because it's the whole package that helps you get the results. Some people don't want to be bothered with the food, so they just go do the supplements but not the food plan. And I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that either, simply because it's the whole package. You have to do the food, you have to do the proper supplementation, and this is how you truly get results. You know, don't try to skimp on it because you're just dragging this problem out. So when we look at reversing this, make sure that we do the whole package here, and then be sure to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you have any questions, post it in the comment section here below, and be sure to subscribe to my channel as well. I'd greatly appreciate that. And then check out my other videos that are going to help you improve your health. I'll see you in the next video.